Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallama ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa tabi'ina lahum bi ihsanin ila yawmiddin wa alayna ma'ahum wa fihim bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. We intend to learn and teach, remember and remind, benefit and gain, to encourage adhering to Allah's book and the sunnah of Allah's messenger, sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi wa sallam, to call to guidance and lead to all and every good, seeking in that Allah's countenance, Allah's pleasure, nearness and reward, glorious and exalted is He. We intend what our sheikhs and the pious have intended and what Allah knows of good intentions, and we ask Him to accept. We ask Allah that by His mercy, and He is the most merciful of the merciful. Alhamdulillah, we are continuing this lesson, discussing some of the seerah of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And in the last lesson, we talked about the building of his masjid, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, the masjid that was established on taqwa from the first day. And we talked about some of the events of their arrival to Madina al-Munawwara. And we talked about the coming of the wives to Madina al-Munawwara and the quarters of Sayyidatuna Aisha that became the burial place of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And we talked about the phases in which the mosque was expanded. There was a detail that I neglected, and that was that in the expansion of Sayyidina Uthman, there was an element of adab that existed on the part of the prophetic companions, and it overlaps some with some fiqh on the madhab of Abu Hanifa, that they didn't like to be laid for the funeral prayer to be prayed over them in the early dimensions of the mosque, because it meant their feet were facing the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So one of the expansions that was made was forward, so that when they would be laid on the funeral stretcher, their feet would be going into open masjid and then out into the open space, rather than directed at the Prophet ﷺ and the hujra in which he was buried. So even after death, they showed a lot of adab with him, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we mentioned the adab that was shown by the companions when they buried Sayyidina Abu Bakr and Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhuma. And also they even mentioned the question that typically the imam, when he prays in a mihrab, he will turn with his right. In the Shafi'i school, he'll turn with his right towards the followers, and his left towards the Qibla. Unless he was in the Masjid of Madina, if he's in the old mihrab, he doesn't face that way, because then he would be putting his back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he faces the other way. And all of those are adab. And adab is immense, and someone who has more adab, his station will rise. Radiyallahu anhum wa ardahum. So that was still all events of the first year. We have the building of the masjid, and we also have the bonds of brotherhood being formed between al-Muhajirin and al-Ansar. May Allah be well pleased with them. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So then that brings us to the end of the first year, or the beginning of the second year. And at the end of the first year, or the beginning of the second year, Allah gave the permission for jihad. Right? So jihad was authorized in the end of the first year or the beginning of the second year by the verse of Surah Hajj, or verses of Surah Hajj from 39 to 40. And the beginning, the first verse is أُذِنَ لِلَّذِينَ يُقَاتَلُونَ بِأَنَّهُمْ ظُلِمُوا وَإِنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى نَصْرِهِمْ لَقَدِيرٌ. Permission has been granted for those who are being fought due to the fact that they are being wronged. And verily Allah is able to grant them victory. Right? Indicating that they were being attacked and they were being oppressed. And you'll find in various books that they say that permission was granted with Surah Saf, which is Surah 61, verses 10 and 11. This author, Sheikh Omar Bahraq, he says that the first verse we cited from Hajj was for the Muhajirin, and this verse in Surah Saf is for the Ansar. So he differentiated between the two. And the verse of Surah Saf is, O you who believe, should I show you something that will rescue you from a painful punishment? Believe in Allah and His Messenger and make jihad in the way of Allah with your wealth and your persons. That is better for you if you only knew. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And that is, they were permitted essentially to defend themselves, and in the case of the Ansar, to protect the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam from harm. La ilaha illallah. And it was fard kifaya. It was fard kifaya during his time, sallallahu alaihi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So after it was permitted, the Prophet began to send out missions and lead campaigns. So the word I'm translating as mission is Seerah. The plural is Saraya, and those are the missions where another companion was made the Amir and the Prophet did not attend. And what I'm calling campaigns are Ghazwa, is the plural of Ghazwa, and those are the campaigns where the Prophet led and attended, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they continued to strive during the remaining 10 years of Madina until things were stabilized and people entered the religion in large groups. And the month we're in, is it still Muharram? Yes. Yeah. The Prophet never stayed a whole Muharram in Medina without going out. Constantly going out. He might go out, come back a couple weeks, and go out again. He might go out and go back out the next day, as in the campaign of Banu Qurayza and some others. But he was constantly striving, and all of that is over the age of 53, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So he didn't just chill out in the shade and comfort of Medina. He was constantly going out, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of the reasons why he didn't go out every time is that some of the companions would not remain behind if he went out, and he knew that they weren't able to endure that. Right? So there was a gentleness towards the companions. And also, we shouldn't understand by any stretch that despite these many campaigns, that there was a great loss of life or desecration of life. Less than 2,000 died on both sides in all of the campaigns. And the Prophet ﷺ only killed one person with his own hand, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And when possible, he would make treaties. We were discussing that with the first group in the tafsir class. So, for instance, the Treaty of Al-Hudaybiyah, which seemed to be a humiliation to his companions, he made it, and Allah called it a clear victory, and he said it was a victory. Inna fatahna laka fathan mubina. And prior to negotiating Al-Hudaybiyah, and they were totally being violated in that case. They were just trying to make Umrah, and they were prevented from the sacred precinct. Prior to the negotiation, he said, I'll give them any concession by which the sacred precinct is rendered, the sanctity of the haram is protected. Right? So his objective was clear there, that he was trying to prevent a loss of life and not desecrate the haram. The hadith that he was never given to choose between two things except he chose the easier of the two. One of the ways that applies is if he was given to choose between combat and a treaty, he would make a treaty. Even again, like Al-Hudaybiyah, that was, those concessions were very difficult for the companions, and he made them, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. So it's not something that we have to be ashamed of, that he and the companions fought and defended themselves, or even preempted attacks at times. That's just something that takes place in terms of, statesmanship. And if we look at the Prophet ﷺ as a statesman or as a commander, we see that he preserved life to a very great extent and offered incredible amnesty to opponents and great magnanimity in the case of victory. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. And then, so the number of campaigns he led was 27. And he sent his companions on 47. However, some others make the number of missions up to around 60. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And then after the hijrah, we can divide from the point of view of peace and opposition. We can divide the disbelievers after the hijrah into three categories. Right? From the point of view of their opposition with the Prophet ﷺ or peace, we can divide them into three categories. A group that he made treaties with, that they would not fight him or help an enemy against him, and those were the three Jewish tribes of Madina, Qurayza and Nadir and Banu Qaynuqa. And the second group were those who fought him, and those were like the disbelievers of Quraysh, until eventually made the treaty of Hudaybiyah. But in the beginning, they fought him actively. And then a group that left him alone and waited to see what would be the end of his affair. And many of the groups of the Arabs were like that. Some of them hoped that he would be victorious, and others hoped that the disbelievers would be victorious. So many of also the hypocrites were in this category. They're waiting to see. And those of the Arabs that were waiting to see, many of them embraced Islam after Fath Mecca. The second one were those who fought him, like the disbelievers of Quraysh. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. So we're going to come to better, but I don't think we're going to do it today. I think we're going to divide it into 2 days. In the second year in Rajab, and that was 16 months after the Hijrah, the Qibla was changed from Jerusalem to Mecca. So that was 16 months in Rajab of the second year. And prior to that, again, he prayed to Bayt al-Maqdis, and he said, I would love for the Qibla, for my Lord to change the Qibla to the Kaaba, because that is the Qibla of my forefather, Abraham.
So was it the what? Was it the what?
It was the Qibla of Abraham.
His Prophet made the what?
He said, I would love that it would be changed.
To a Sahabi?
Yeah. It would have to be. He doesn't. This scholar of Seerah doesn't mention a narrator, but it would be a statement that was made. No. And he anticipated that revelation would be revealed to this effect, and he would look to the heavens for it. And Allah chose what He chose. And He revealed these verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. Verily we see your face, you turn your face to the heavens, and we will verily make you face a qibla with which you are pleased. فَوَلِّ وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. So you turn your face in the direction of the sacred mosque. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he first was in Mecca, he would pray and place the Kaaba between him and Jerusalem. So he's facing the Kaaba and facing Jerusalem. So then when he went to Al-Madina, he was which is north of Mecca, he had to face towards the north, and Mecca was behind him, and he was facing Jerusalem. And he loved to face the Qibla of Mecca. And then Allah had him turn, and that was after 16 months. And Al-Bara bin Azib narrates, may Allah be well pleased with both of them, in the Sahih of Bukhari and Muslim, that Allah's Messenger prayed in the direction of Bayt al-Maqdis, in the direction of Jerusalem, for 16 months. And he loved to face the Kaaba. So Allah revealed, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ, to that verse. And then he turned in the direction of the Kaaba. So some of the idiots, of the stupid people, sufaha, he said, مَا وَلَّاهُمْ عَنْ قِبْلَتِهِمْ وَلَتِي كَانُوا عَلَيْهَا. What made them turn away from the Qibla that they were previously facing? So Allah Ta'ala said, قُلِ اللَّهِ الْمَشْرِقُ وَالْمَغْرِبِ يَهْدِي مَن يَشَاءُ إِلَى صِرَاطٍ مُسْتَقِيمٍ. Say, Allah's is the east and the west. He turns, He guides those whom He wills to a straight path. And Allah also said that we did not make the Kaaba, we did not establish the Qibla that you were facing previously, except that we could know those who follow the Messenger from those who turn on their heels. So there can be things in the Sharia that are just a test. Allah is testing our obedience. And like a meaning behind all of this legislations is ubudiyah, right? Ta'abbud, that you do things out of mere servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like the whole meaning of Hajj is that. Because how do you understand the unusual things that you do on Hajj other than that? Like, why would you go around a certain building and go back and forth between two mountains and throw stones at a certain place? This time it's recommended to wear a turban. Now you take your hat off. All of that, the meaning behind it is just pure servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And a deep meaning in the whole Sharia is that. And also it shows that, foolish people are going to always say, why do they do this? Why do they do that? We do that because we obey Allah and His Messenger. That's why we do it. That's the meaning behind it. And don't expect them to understand, because kuffar don't understand obedience to divinity and prophecy. That they don't get that. And you're not going to convince them of it. It'll maybe even become more obscure the more you try to convince them. And you end up explaining away things in the deen. You teach for decades, it's this, because that appeals to certain type of thinking, and then people learn it's not that, and they start to doubt their religion. وَلِيَعْذُ بِاللَّهِ تَعَالَى. Tell you shouldn't have had to convince them in the first place. Just tell them Allah said it. It's like this because that's what Allah said, and I believe in Allah. You and I, what we have to come to is, I believe in Allah and I believe in His Messenger. You got either an issue with both of those or the latter of the two, and until you solve that, I'm not going to make you understand a whole lot of what I do. Nor am I interested in your understanding, or I'm interested in your satisfaction. I'm interested in trying to convince you of that for your own salvation. But that's that. لن ترضى عنك اليهود ولا النصارى حتى تتبع ملتهم. The Jews and the Christians are not going to be satisfied with you until you follow their religion. And we got a lot of folks chasing them down the lizard's hole. That's you guys have Christmas. Oh, Christmas isn't so bad. We have Christmas. You guys have a vigil for dead homosexuals. Here, we'll talk about that. Let's even include them in our community, guys. Let's include dead homosexuals in our community. Let's make them feel safe in this space. كيف هذا كلام? we're really sorry that someone wronged you, but no, there's absolutely no room for your conduct in our space. Zero. Absolutely zero, no room for your conduct in our space. You can come and you better behave. Khalas, yani. That's that, yani. In any case, so many times they talked. They talk against it. And in the Prophet's case, he answered. Allah answered for him, subhanahu. So the Prophet ﷺ, there's a man who prayed with the Prophet ﷺ, and this is in Bukhari and Muslim. A man prayed with them, and then he went out after he had prayed, and he passed a group of the Ansar who were praying Asr in the direction of Bayt Maqdis. So he said that he testifies that he prayed with Allah's Messenger, and that he turned in the direction of the Kaaba, so that whole group turned towards the Kaaba. And in one of the narrations, they were in ruku' of the second rak'ah. So it's as though it occurred a couple of times, and it's also reported that it was a night prayer. And with that kind of news spreading out among a number of satellite prayer spaces, it's not unlikely that it would be multiple narrations. In any case, this one is in the Sahihain. So imagine like a group of companions praying 2 rak'ahs, and then just getting an order from Allah's Messenger, and the whole masjid turns the opposite direction, and the imam goes around to the front. Compare that to like, oh, why did he have this qibla? That's how you redefine Muslim spaces. That's how you reimagine Muslim spaces. A space where there's uncompromising obedience to Rasulullah. That's the sacred space. And that'll always work. It'll always be relevant, and it'll always work. You could think, talk. And Allahu Alam what you're going to come up with. Really. But if it's like annihilation in Rasulullah, wallahi, it'll always be good. It'll always be good, and you'll find a lot of breadth in the sunnah of various expressions of Rasulullah's sunnah that you can apply. Like traveling, you see beautiful masajid, like there's some places, like Tarim, for instance, very, very simple masajid, ladies' masjids and men masjids. I know people that studied there, and I've done it once. I don't know if I've totally done it, but like if you stumble into the wrong masjid, khalas, it's a masjid for ladies. And you don't have to be some sort of weird, something with, we're going to make these weird, anti-male spaces. These are just like salihat. They want to worship Allah, and space has to be provided for them. They're worshiping Allah. And we're going to invent women's masjids. Tell you, people have been doing it for 1,000 years. Why are you tripping? Like, what do you think you just invented, because you have social media or whatever, you invented something, and there's people been doing it. Then you go other places on the same town, same madhab, same group of ulama. You go to the coast, and then they have women's masjids with like balconies set up. Or this one masjid, they had like a brick structure in the center with like big bricks left out, and the lights were just dim, and ladies were right there. We heard like in Turkey, they'll have the ladies up higher and the men down lower, and dimmer lights in the ladies section. And it's just like that. You go to Malaysia and Indonesia, all over the Muslim world, there's beautiful, beautiful spaces that were established in the broad, amazing Sharia of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you don't need someone who the kuffar have gotten up in his head so much that he put a whole bunch of letters ahead of his name, and he thinks he's going to rethink it without a sanad, afwan minik. We're going to get it from al-Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that uncompromising obedience of the companions, that's where it's going to come from. Imagine the type of thinking of someone like that, who just one other Sahabi, I testify I prayed with Allah's Messenger. Everybody just alters what they're doing immediately. That's how it was when the verse of alcohol was revealed. They said that first it's this, don't do it don't do it when you're praying. Then the next one, or there's 3 levels. There was harm and benefit. Don't come to prayer when you're drunk. Then a prohibition. Tell you, when the 3rd one was revealed, the streets of Madina just like flowed with wine. They just poured it all out immediately. La ilaha illallah. The verse of the veil. The verse of the veil was revealed, and they said the ladies the next day were like crows. You couldn't tell if they were going and coming. Immediately, they obeyed Allah and His Messenger. Sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. One interesting point about that is this is the first incident of a naskh, right? The first incident of abrogation of a ruling. La ilaha illallah. Muhammad. طيب, in Sha'ban of the second year, fasting Ramadan was made obligatory. And on the position that fasting Ashura was obligatory, fasting Ashura's obligation was abrogated. But there's a difference of opinion whether Ashura was ever obligatory. And the verse was revealed, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kutiba alaykumus siyam. In those verses. So, Sawm was the second year of Hijrah. Yep. In Sha'ban of the second year, right before that Ramadan. And on the position that Ramadan, Ashura, on the position that Ashura was obligatory, Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma narrates, Allah's Messenger fasted Ashura and ordered that it be fasted, and when Ramadan was made an obligation, he left it, meaning he left its obligation. La ilaha illallah. Though there's a difference of opinion again, whether it was ever an obligation. And in the second year, this author says Ramadan, but it's as though there's also a saying or position that it was in Sha'ban. Sadaqat Fitr was made obligatory. So Sadaqat Fitr was made obligatory in the second year. And that was the first type of zakat that was made obligatory. Zakat mal was prescribed later. Zakat Fitr was prescribed in the second year. And Ibn Umar radiallahu anhuma narrates, Allah's Messenger made the zakat al-fitr of a saw, which is 4 muds, which is like each mud is a half liter, essentially. So a saw is 2 and some 2.03 liters. He made a saw of dates or a saw of barley, obligatory upon every free person or slave, male or female, from the Muslims, meaning that those who had to support those people would pay zakat fitr or sadaqat fitr on their behalf. How's our time? 10 minutes? Okay, we won't cover all of the Battle of Badr, but we'll cover a little bit about the Battle of Badr. And in the second year, in Ramadan, Allah's Messenger led the campaign of Badr, Ghazwat Badr, the greater Battle of Badr. And it occurred on Jumu'ah, the 17th of Ramadan. And it is Yawm al-Furqan. It is the day of al-Furqan. It is the day that the two parties met. And Allah indicated it in the Quran. In Surah Furqan. And in other places in the Quran. And it is the greatest of the battles of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And once Jibril alayhi salam asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what do you consider those who attended the Battle of Badr among you? And he said, we consider them the best of us. And Jibril alayhi salam said, so do we. The angels that attended the Battle of Badr, they're considered the best of the angels. When they talk about the order of merit of prophetic companions, they mention the 4 caliphs, the 6 remaining of those 10 that were promised paradise, and then a Badri companion. Al-Bara bin Azib, may Allah be well pleased with him, said the companion, this is in the Sahih of al-Bukhari, the companions of Badr had the same number as the companions of Talut, who crossed with him the river, and only a believer crossed with him. And they are 313. With them was one horse, and that was owned by Al-Miqdad bin Al-Aswad, radiyallahu anhum ajma'een. La ilaha illallah. So 313 is the number of the companions of Badr. It's also the number of those who crossed the river with Talut, according to Al-Bara bin Azib. And some of them mention that it's a number of messengers as well. However, it's a safer position not to delineate the number of messengers so that you don't exclude anyone that was a messenger. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And again, understanding that 25 messengers are listed in the Quran, even though there's messengers that aren't listed. La ilaha illallah. So 313. 313 is a special number. So inshallah, Detroit has good in store for it. 313. Allahu Akbar. Naam. The Prophet ﷺ said about the people of Badr, لَعَلَّ اللَّهَ اطَّلَعَ عَلَى أَهْلِ بَدْرٍ فَقَالَ اِعْمَلُوا مَا شِئْتُمْ فَقَدْ غَفَرْتُ لَكُمْ. This is narrated by Bukhari. The Prophet said of the people of Badr, and this is when one of them had committed an error and the Prophet forgave it. He said, perhaps Allah has gazed to the people of Badr and said, do what you wish, we have forgiven you. Right? So that's almost like a type of isma they had. They just had a station, who's going to have the life to that station. Allahu Akbar. And so it's understood they're from the people of paradise. And that only a believer witnessed it. La ilaha illallah. Naam. And they would still be punished for their mistakes. Naam. So some of the companions made mistakes. Some of them were punished and such. However, they were, ultimately, good was decreed for them. And that's something we should understand. As a community, we have to become better about that. It's like people will make mistakes or commit sins, and they could be punished, and they could still be a good person, and they're still part of the community. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. La ilaha illallah. No, we don't want to go into the cause, but we'll go into there's some more details about Badr that we'll go into, but that's a little bit about it. Actually, one detail that's important. It is the view of some of our shuyukh that the eve before the Battle of Badr was Laylatul Qadr in that year. And that also the night in which the Quran was first revealed in the cave was the 17th that year. And that was a view of Al-Hasan al-Basri that the 17th was Laylatul Qadr. Right, that was his view, that it was the 17th. That would be indicated by this Battle of Badr if we say the Battle of Badr occurred after the eve of, after the Night of Power. And also if we say that the Quran was revealed first on the eve of the 17th of Ramadan, that would definitely indicate that Laylatul Qadr occurs at least sometimes on the 17th. And there's positions indicating that it occurs in most often in Ramadan, most often in the last 10, most often in the odd among the last 10, but that it can move throughout the year or certainly move throughout Ramadan. And again, it's as though the year of the Battle of Badr, it was the eve of the 17th of Ramadan. And it's as though in recent years sometimes it occurs that as well. Some of the Salihin who we have a lot of confidence in, they gave indications in some recent years that it was the 17th, and Allah knows best. So that's a special night, and it's a night of that the pious will gather and read certain litanies and also recount the story of the companions of the Battle of Badr, and it's a night to take advantage of in Ramadan, the eve of the 17th. And Allah knows best. And we'll come, and next lesson we'll just go through details of the Battle of Badr, inshallah ta'ala. Maybe some other events of the second year. La ilaha illallah. Are there any questions? Barakallah fikum. Time-wise, we're okay? We're ahead, alhamdulillah. فاتحة رزقنا الصدق والإخلاص والعمل الخالص بالقول وحسن التعليم والدعاء على الهدى وأن يسر بذلك قلب نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وسلم من يكون حتى على هذا فاتحة المشايخ والذين ودعوهم في حين والحدث فاتحة